welcome to my homesteading channel. Let's talk about essential homesteading skills. So I did some research because let's be very clear about this channel. This is not someone who's an expert. This is not an expert. This isn't even like a has some experience. This is like we are on an exploratory journey together to discover what it means to do homesteading outside the garden, because that's what we're going to be doing. So will I have all the answers? No, I won't. I won't have a lot of the answers. I will definitely make tons of mistakes, but hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and not make them. But sometimes we'll do something well, and that's a really cool thing. So we'll try that too. So we're just gonna see what happens. And today we're talking about homesteading skills. I did some research. We're gonna have a chat about it, about the skills that we allegedly need to learn. It was an interesting journey that I went on when I started looking into it. So I started looking online about what are the skills to be a homesteader, because I think, when we first started talking about doing this channel, it was like, hey, we have food, I wanna start learning how to can. Definitely gonna be doing some of that on this channel, probably a lot of that on this channel. But are there other things that I need to know? I was wondering. So here's the question, was people had lots of lists. And the more I read the lists, the more I felt like we were no longer talking about homesteading, and now we were edging into doomsday prepping. And I felt like that was a lot further than I wanted to go, / you may want to go. Am I all about Girl Scouts, be prepared, but not they were talking about foraging and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, I live in St. Pete. I'm not going foraging. This is literally I live in an urban environment. My house looks like it's in the suburbs, but I do actually live in a city. Not really where I was going. But here are some of my main takeaways. And then we'll start having, okay, here's what the main things they said. Gardening, which, check, got that one down. And growing fruit trees, which, yeah, I got that one too. Preserving food. This is the one we talked about that we want to learn. So we'll definitely be doing that. Cooking meals from scratch, which in discussion with Ben was kind of sorta, but not quite, not really, not totally. Raising animals. Do dogs count? Because we raise them. Or caterpillars. I've raised caterpillars. Home remedies. Okay, and then making personal care products. No, I don't know if I even want to do that one, and then living off the land was kind of a general sentiment. And I just thought, my yard, because that's kind of the only land around. There's really not land. It's kind of here's a neighborhood, here's businesses. So I don't know how it's different than gardening, but we wrote it down. I wrote it down. And then people got into learn how to forage, learn how to, they sew clothes. And I was like, well, I can sew, if I have a hole in a shirt, I can definitely sew that clothes. But making clothes was on the list. And I was like, no, I'm not doing that. So while all those things seem fabulous, it got me really thinking what is a homestead? Because I feel like what people are talking about today is not necessarily what it is. And I started doing some research I do, because I started taking things from different angles, because it hit me this year because my house falls under the Florida tax exemption for homesteads, right? We get a homestead exemption credit. And I was like, well, they don't have these things on their list to get me the homestead exemption. So what is it they mean by a homestead? And does that differ from what kind of the YouTubers and the vloggers and the bloggers and all the people on social media, what they mean by homestead? So here's some interesting history. So the Homesteading Act actually goes back to 1862, and it was kind of like a northern versus a southern thing in the Civil War, because really what they were trying to do was protect the rights of individual farmers. They were trying to give them financial preference through tax exemptions, specifically the homestead exemption. Why? Because up north there were a lot of small farmers, and down south there were a lot of big farmers who were eating up a bunch of land. And the thing was, the small farmers couldn't compete because the labor, they paid for it if they brought any extra labor up north. And then down south, 1862, we were doing a little bit of the slave thing. So we weren't really paying for our workers. And this kind of reminded me of a little bit what's happening now, where people are talking about small farmers versus big corporations. So basically the Homesteading Act was kind of trying to give financial benefits to the small guy, the little one, and actually ladies too, and immigrants and all sorts of people. So this is an Abraham Lincoln thing. So good job, Abe Lincoln. And so at the end of the day, it was a business thing, but it was really about farming. These other things probably were done on those homesteads, but weren't necessarily the reason for the Homestead Act. So then if you kind of come from that angle, then you get into like, well, homesteads really are about growing food. You eat the food, and then you sell the food. That's kind of then what the Homestead Act is trying to do. But really in modern day homestead exemption basically is like, do you have some land? Cool, then you're technically a homesteader. So I already win. Check, we all did it. Good job, everyone. We're homesteaders. We don't have any of the skills, but we are homesteaders. So that's exciting. So, okay. So first off, grow the food. So this is going to break down into plants and animals. I have a garden. Yay. Am I going to get into animals? No, because Ben and I are basically eat like 97% vegetarian, maybe 99%. We eat meat once in a while, but it's just it's not often. So I don't see us raising animals anytime soon. But if you want to, you should do that. And even in like cities like St. Pete, you can have up to like 10 chickens, which is kind of cool. So there's a lot of like good stuff there. Then the next thing is like eating the food. Okay, so this is where we got into the canning, because sometimes there's too much food all at once. So you got to spread it out, and that's through the preservation. And currently, my only skill with preserving is I put it in the freezer. So I don't feel like I need to show you how to do that. You probably could figure that one out. But then it gets into like a whole bunch of other stuff. And canning is one of the techniques. There are other techniques, like you could get into like salting and jerking and I don't know, other things. Yeah, so I'm going to focus on canning. I'm going to be focusing on water bath canning because pressure canning seems really intimidating. 1, 2, it seems like a lot of people jump to that when they want to do meat, and like we're not going to eat a lot of meat, so I don't really care about that. But if you want to, that's usually when people jump. But I'm going to start simple with the water bath because the pressure canning just kind of freaks me out a little bit, and like baby steps for us. So the next step, canning, makes you a homesteader. And then there's this like whole idea of just being self-sufficient is kind of in that whole homesteader groove. So really what I kind of broke that down is that the skills you really need to do is reduce costs, because you don't have a lot of money if you were selling food. I mean, I guess you could start selling food, but I don't think all of us want to become farmers. So this is, I think the difference now is that if you're homesteading, you're more focused on your family, whether it's the people who live in the house on the homestead and like local like family, versus like farming, which is proper like selling. So I'm not planning on selling anything, so it keeps me on the homestead side. But reducing costs, so making our own food, yes. But I think what we're going to also focus on with some of the skills we need to do is some different type of meal planning. We do meal planning, but we buy the food every week. Versus I really like what I've been seeing on like, so Acre Homestead I watch a lot for canning, and then I watch 1870s Homestead. And one of the things that I like on 1870s Homestead, and I also watch Simple Living Alaska for like a lot of my canning knowledge stuff. I'm going to be checking out Mary's Nest too also. So if you're looking for other channels, those are some that do a lot of canning that I enjoy and you may enjoy too. But one of the things that I feel like 1870s Homestead does better than the others that I feel like would be very helpful as a skill is canning meals. So I feel like a lot of focus is on canning certain ingredients, like you're doing tomato sauce or salsa, or you're doing like applesauce, but like it's not a meal. And I feel like 1870s Homestead, she's really good about like making a soup or whatever. So like that's some of the stuff I want to figure out is like, how can we have meals that are ready to go? And like I've already been thinking about how when we go to make something like a chili, could we double batch it? Could we triple batch it? And then like we eat some of it fresh and then we just can the rest. That's some of the stuff I want to try out. And I feel like would be really helpful for you and me is that we work on some stuff like that. So, and that would reduce costs. So we're all about that, because if you do stuff in bulk, you tend to save money. Growing your own food, as you saw. If you guys watched, I think it was my New Year's Eve video that just came out about how I grew 500 pounds. Like I already reduced $1,000 out of our food budget this last year just from growing our own food. And I feel like the more we can do some of this, that like we could actually reduce it more. I feel like there's opportunities. So we're going to work on that. And then there's just this whole, like, it's kind of that like recycle triangle, except people usually forget the reduce, reuse. And I feel like we do like a lot of work to stop stuff from going into the trash, the garbage, right? Even we try to do things to like minimize how much goes out in recycling, because all of it just takes a lot of energy and waste and blah, blah, blah. The environment, be good for it. So composting, we'll talk about some composting. I feel like whether you're doing gardening and homesteading, like composting is a really good thing in the homesteading world for a lot of reasons. It's all about poop, but like, let's do some more composting. And I have some cool stuff I can show you with composting because I do that. I've been doing that for a while. And then like using canning jars and stuff, I feel like that's better than using those like aluminum cans that have to go get recycled and turned into something versus just reusing a jar over and over again. And then also it's about like, so that's kind of on the food side, but also it's like reducing your energy and water and taking care. And like part of reducing and reusing is taking good care of stuff. So I don't know, having good home, I was going to say home wrecking, but I feel like that's not the right word. Homemaking skills. Yes, like what you're supposed to learn in home ec. I feel like the only thing we did was like snickerdoodles, and I don't remember actually even eating those. I feel like I missed that day. But like the things that you're supposed to learn in home economics, like how to take care of your house in a really good way. I love doing house cleaning. I don't have enough time for it, but I do like being organized. And this looks really nice. I'm telling you, it's not as nice because I pushed all the rest of the Christmas gifts over yonder off camera. Ah, the magic of the camera. It's just over there. Lots of boxes. But the thing is that like one of the skills is also being able to take care of your homestead, and that looks like a lot of different things. So there'll probably be some like projects and stuff that we'll be doing too for fun. We'll see. But a lot of focus on the canning stuff because that's what I really want to learn. So if you're looking to get your homesteading skills, at the end of the day, grow the food, eat the food. When you can't eat enough of it, preserve it. Don't throw away more than you need to. Reduce and reuse what you can. And there you go. Those are basically your homestead. And don't forget to make sure you get your home's exemption tax benefits because this is what it's for. Okay, well, I hope this was helpful. We're going to be back next week and we're going to talk about some of the basic canning supplies. So I'll see you soon. Bye.